Hi, Raina. How are
Hello.
you? How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. You?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Um, so today I wanted to just have a chat with you about your experience with working with me on my program and helping mums get into their best shape, and just for you to just share frankly about your experiences and give others an idea and opportunity to see what it's all about and what you've been able to achieve in your time with me. Okay, so let's start with what were you facing when you first before you started on the program? What kind of where were you? What were you experiencing, and what attracted you to the program?
Okay. Okay. I think I have quite a low self low self-esteem, I think, and very low confidence at this point. I think this is something that I've been wanting to do, and almost felt like I should have been doing maybe 10 years ago, to try to discover this. So it's anything. I was stuck in a place of, I don't know, negativity. I was not happy with my body. I wasn't happy with just where my life was going. Just ultimately all about not necessarily being worthy of good things happening to me, and actually taking the time out. So ultimately, I was putting myself at the bottom end of, I suppose, the list. Everything else came before I did, and yeah, I think that was pretty much where I was. I couldn't have been. It was almost like the worst place I probably could have been. Looking back at it now, almost. Um, just not realizing how low I'd actually got and how I'd put on so much weight over such a period of time, really, I think.
Okay, and what was it that attracted you to work with me and on this particular program?
Um, it was the idea of knowing or even believing that there could be the best version of me. That it was literally, I wanted to see an improvement almost in all parts of my life, not necessarily just my body, my nutrition, just how I saw myself, how I saw others. And I think you, when I first started, I think had what I suppose the first session that I had with you made me realize actually this is something that you could help me with, that I had been searching for a long time and didn't actually even realize was out there and that was possible.
Okay, that's good to hear. And how would you say all of these things that you were experiencing before you started work on yourself, how was it affecting your life and your family life and the way things were with your partner? In
Oh,
just a very summarized, you don't have to
yeah,
give lots of,
no.
personal information, but just an idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were communicating very well. We were almost like living, you sort of think, sort of necessarily separate lives. I was very busy with my daughter. Um, my partner was busy working. It was, I don't know, I was snapping at everybody. I was shouting at my daughter. I had very, well, I thought my tolerance level was very um, short. I was almost didn't feel like I was in control of everything that was going on around me. Everything seemed very chaotic. And my initial reaction to anything was I was always on the defense ultimately. Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's great. And then you started working with me on the program, and how, in a really summarized, simple way of explaining, how would you say the program helped you overcome barriers that you felt at that time, and then new ones that you discovered also along the journey?
Yeah. Uh, I think some of some of the things were related to food, um, exercise. Those were a couple of my really big barriers that I didn't even realize I was emotional eating. I didn't One of those things I didn't even realize that was one of the things that I'd been doing all this time. Um, and also, I think the idea of feeling like I needed or deserved for instance, to have a drink at the end of an evening because I'd worked really hard, etc. There was everything from, I suppose, from a meditation perspective. I hadn't even realized that my head was, I had never realized I needed to have intentions in my life, and I just was plodding along ultimately. And I think that's one of the things that the program actually allowed me to do, is actually set some intentions that I could have for my future and what I wanted to actually achieve ultimately. I think, and those are just some of the barriers. Food nutrition was some of them, but actually changing my mindset and actually realizing that just by making small changes could make a huge kind of difference.
Okay, great, and thank you for sharing that. And I know there was many, many more, but that's great to hear those simple shares. And how did you feel about the introduction to and the use of your female energies and being in tune with your body's intuition, listening, learning to quieten yourself, to be more in tune with your body, and the whole thing of, like, dare I say, spirituality and manifesting, so that you could step into the best version of yourself and your best shape in all aspects, right? Because it's not entirely just your body. Yes, we want our body, but there's all these other things as well, part of us. How did that sit with you when you were learning these things?
Yeah, I hadn't even, and it sounds very silly saying this, as a woman, as a female, that actually I think for a long time I've just been using my masculine energies, and I hadn't even realized or even tapped into what my female energies were. So any of these things about, the manifesting things in my life, or quietening from, through meditation, even just using those compassion and kind words, and seeing things, not just those things in me, but actually seeing those things in others as well. I think those things, they just made me feel, it sounds bizarre saying alive almost. They made me feel like actually I could do this, I could do almost anything, and I could achieve more than I ever thought I could, really. I found that every single one of the things that I've done, and that you've helped me to do, really, is realize that almost like anything is possible if you are focused enough or determined enough to just make those changes. So from anything from sort of the meditation and trying to make these intentions in my life, and will help me manifest what I actually want eventually. Yeah, I think it's yeah, I think, and I think one of those other things as well was the movement and exercise. I think those because just as much as the spiritual thing, by moving my body regularly, I say, regular exercise, it sort of helped. I suppose it just helps move the energies in your body, and that's almost like the kick starts what you're doing. The meditation almost pulls everything together for when you start manifesting everything that you want in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And that's really wonderful to hear. And thank you for sharing that. It's really, really powerful stuff, right? And can you give an insight? So when you did all of these things, but what was it like to have support in a kind of group kind of setting with others there, kind of feeling like you're not on your own in this journey? How did that sit?
That is in a very positive way, actually, because it felt like that I wasn't just on my own. There were other people out there from other people knowing about just advice on food, advice on exercise, even podcasts and things being sent to me. Those things reminded me of, that I wasn't on my own. Having that female and feminine support really gives you the boost that you need. And sometimes when you're feeling a little bit low, or you're feeling, oh, I can't be bothered doing that exercise today, or I can't be bothered, when you start talking yourself out of it, this self-sabotage that we seem to do, having that female support by both the Facebook group and, having those, it made a huge difference, actually.
That's great. And talking about self-sabotage, did you feel that when those things did creep in, that you could identify them, you were able to diagnose it?
Yeah, I think I'd make myself laugh, actually, when I did it, because I've done it a couple of times, even in the last week, when I can't be bothered doing the exercise today. But I know how good, once I've done it, I know how good. And that's what I'm talking myself. You end up talking yourself out of it. And then when I've realized it, and I was like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that to yourself? It's easy. You remind yourself, actually, the reason you're doing it in the first place and what actually you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, so that you've got your tools and you can diagnose it, you know what you need to do. And everybody has their own way of dealing, it's finding the right one out of all the toolbox, the whole toolbox that actually works for you.
Yeah, so, I know, absolutely.
That's great. And would you say your commitment, so we talk about self-sabotage, all of this thing of sabotage, but then it all comes back to your commitment. Do you think you always, and even to this point now, so we are quite a bit of time past your time on the program, at least probably 3 months, would you say?
Yeah. Yes.
Would you say you kind of stuck with your intended intentions each week, and even to this point now, like staying on your journey, sticking with your the things you've set out to achieve, your intentions with your diet, the way you eat, the way you think, the way you move?
Yeah. I have to admit, I mean, it's not always. I think, I have to be honest. In most cases, I think, particularly whilst I was going through the program, I was very, very focused on this is what I wanted to achieve. I still have that focus now, don't get me wrong, but sometimes life throws you these swerves, and I think, and we have to, take that into account. We've had building works going on. These things happen, and they do knock you a little bit, but actually, my ultimate goal is still the same. My focus is still the same. It just means sometimes you get knocked off, you just have to get back up again and realize, actually, that just because you've had a knock, it doesn't mean that, oh, that's it, I'll just give up on everything. Because actually, then I'll be just back where I was at the beginning of the program, when I really, really, really needed your help, and actually was, desperate to kind of get to where I've got to now, really. So from that perspective, I think I've had, I'm still focused. I'm still doing a lot of, and using a lot of the tools from where I am. I didn't always do everything every week, in a sense. I always listened, and I learned things as we were going along the program, which was, if I didn't have to watch it, or I could just have it in my ears whilst I was cooking. And sometimes I get all of it, I might watch it twice in order for it to sink in. And I think even now, I'd say in the last maybe 3 months or so, I've revisited some things that I just want to recap on things, because I find that I'm always learning just more about myself, more about why I do things. Or I think definitely my intention is still the same, and I still want to achieve my goal, but my goal just, it doesn't necessarily get bigger. Well, it does, I suppose it does to a certain extent, because you want to achieve more.
Yeah, you do. You achieve something, and then you want to do more, don't you? And you feel good, and you want to do more. And that's life, right? And that's why it's about intention as opposed to an end goal.
Yes.
Right. So would you say you, through the program, you've broken cycles that you've been stuck in and previously struggled with overcoming?
Yeah, I think two of the main ones that I would say, I mean, there's quite a few actually, because I had quite a lot of things to break. I suppose, I think my emotional eating was one of the things that I think I hadn't even, I hadn't even realized that that's what I was doing. Um, Communication with my partner, that was a really big thing, I think, and I hadn't again. Um, these are cycles, and my outlook on life, I think. It sounds terrible thinking that it was just going to be bleak. You know, I just, oh God, this is just it now. And oh, I've had a baby and I've got what I want, and I'm just a mum. And I've realized now that actually I'm not just a mum, and I kind of feel like I've got myself back. And actually, I've got my own self-respect back, but my confidence, my self-esteem. So those sort of things, my outlook on life was, yeah. And actually, that recognize that when I'm sort of, I suppose, doing a workout, I'm actually realizing um, and understanding in my mind actually that I'm actually getting stronger physically, and I'm actually thinking about my body as to how I want it to look eventually, ultimately. And I can see the changes now. I'm down a dress size that I'm fitting into stuff that I never thought I'd be fitting into again, and I was about to get rid of. But yeah, just little things, and I know it's not all about the body, because it is. That's just one part of it. I think the mindset of actually knowing that actually what I can achieve after this is sort of the world's your oyster kind of thing, really.
Yeah, and one feeds the other, right? You start feeling a change in your body, and then it's feedback, and then and it keeps you on that journey of, okay,
Yeah.
well, this work I've been doing, it's really working, so I want to do more
Mm.
of that work, right?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
that work, instead of just focusing into the food and the exercise, but actually all the other things, is actually how that then helps the whole life,
Yes.
right? That's great. Thank you for sharing. And are you more comfortable and confident in your new ways of practicing life? You know, so you've started new things that you do, your practices, your habits. How
Mm.
comfortable do you feel in those um, on a day to day?
Yeah. I feel a lot more comfortable um, now, and it's things have and they improve with time as well. I think when I first started in relation to kind of meditation, I think in my head I had this idea of what I thought meditation was and how it needed to happen, and actually realized that there's no real given set scenario as to how you meditate. And that's how I feel now. I've found my way of meditating and what works for me. That's just one of the things, and how to, setting my intentions of where I and what I want to achieve. Um, yeah, I feel like my practices, that's one in particular that I has improved in time. Um, and I find myself actually, interestingly, looking at more self development, which I didn't think I would do as well. I think I look now more at different parts of what I can, what other bits of me that not that I can improve, but I mean, understand more about, really, I think.
That's
So
great.
yes, yeah.
And how about your practices with your, um, you've kept, so that's the kind of mind work, but then in terms of your practices with your food and your movement, so I know you've talked briefly about movement already, but uh, how would you say your practices with lifestyle have evolved, and how comfortable, or probably not comfortable, but have you been able to find a good pattern that's working for you?
Uh, yes, yes, I have. I'm finding so from an exercise perspective, I'm sort of regularly um, exercising. I've had a couple of injuries, but I think that's it's not stopping me from doing everything that I kind of want to do and what I want to achieve. but also my food. I have found stages. I found stages where
Okay.
I've.
That's okay. Hello.
I can't sweet that. I'm in the no. Can I have a quick little now? You can go to bed. Sweetheart. No. I'm going to put it in a bit. Off you go. One more. Oh.
That's okay.
Where was I? Sorry.
Food.
My food, yeah. Most of my practices from that perspective are okay. I do have times I did introduce, because I'd stopped eating bread, for instance, and I reintroduced bread again, and then I realised, oh, it's okay for a bit, but I can. It's one of those things I think I now have to sort of take it or leave it, because I realised actually I was getting bloated tummy again, and so just certain foods and the deserving of food. And, actually, I now probably enjoy my food more now, and I'm always looking for more recipes. For instance, I enjoy my food a lot more now, and actually, I would like to eat quality necessarily rather than quantity as well now. So, darker chocolate, those sorts of things, rather than actually just picking things up. And I do find sometimes, don't get me wrong, that I do, because if I'm in a rush, if I'm out and about, and I try and choose wisely rather necessarily than empty calories almost, so I'd rather pick up a piece of fruit, or I'd pick up something that's going to be a little bit more on the healthier side, because just as much as anybody, you can prepare for everything, and it doesn't always work, it doesn't always work out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great. And did the program enable you to keep it consistent, those things that you've been talking about? Like, does it feel more consistent?
Yes, it does. It does. And that's, I think that's practice. I mean, some of the things I'm still, up until probably a few weeks ago, actually, still doing the intermittent fasting as well. So, and that I found just how actually, bizarrely, I had got better sleep as well with relation to that as well. So I found that, for instance, was a good practice. Yeah, to upkeep almost. So I think there's lots of things. Some things I either let go and some things slip. But what I don't do is I don't beat myself up about it anymore. And I think that's something that I did before. And I think if I just don't beat myself up about it. And I'm very conscious of just, that I don't do that ultimately, because that ultimately is then as much as that is self-sabotage by doing what I'm doing, the self-sabotage is also by beating myself up. I just have to let it go. I've done that now. It's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Can you see how far you have come?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, sort of how I feel internally from from all sorts of things, from not just physically my body, that's just one. My outlook on life, my positivity. People see it in me, and they see it. So my family saying, "Raina, you're just different. You're different. You're a lot more calmer. You're a lot more." And I can see sort of negativity in people. I realise as well when people are sort of zapping me of my energy, because that's one of the things that I think I've learned through this program as well, was how many people were zapping me of my energy, or how people were just stripping me of me, really, and I had absolutely nothing left for me. So I was ultimately I was exhausted, and then never had any time left for me to actually think about me, and that it has been like a huge. It feels like a burden lifted, or a
Yeah,
cloud off my shoulders, which I never thought. Well, I just didn't even realize it was happening. I just thought, this is my life and this is how it's going to be. And actually, I see things negativity, and I turn it around and I turn it on its head. And turn the tables and turn it into something positive. Whereas maybe before I was almost like feeding it and not even realizing it. So so from a physical perspective, from my mindset, I feel a lot calmer and I have a lot more patience. That sounds terrible saying this about my dog. I have a lot more patience with her, because when she's asking me for, oh, mummy, just come upstairs and give me a cuddle, or 10 more minutes, and oh God, I'm busy, I can't really. And actually I realized that 10 minutes is just 10 minutes, and it doesn't amount to a lot of time. And actually, why would I not want to cuddle and take the time to do that? It seems very silly. But yeah.
And I remember distinctly actually, like the time with the energy thing being a really big thing for you. And that was like a big, huge turning point for you to actually be able to work on yourself because you were really exhausted a lot. So that's a really fantastic share. And you've talked about like how it's rippled, but can you see anybody else around you feeling like they want to kind of have a dose of what you've been able to do and turn your life around?
I think particularly one of my sisters, I think they really sort of seen sort of how, I suppose, just how positive and how, I think, committed I've been to this, to the program, and just to the focus. But I think it's just nice to see other people see me happy, if you know what I mean. Just enjoying life a little bit and having people understanding maybe what my intentions are, and that I have a goal now. Whereas actually I felt like before I was sort of plodding along, and it was just, things were just going to happen. But you can't, you need to make things happen. And I think I found the fire in my belly almost, if you know what I mean, to help me kind of realize what I want to go and achieve.
And it's a commitment to yourself, not necessarily the program. The program was to guide you and give you the tools, right? And I helped you put your feet to the fire and say, right, you got to do this, even when it was a little bit, scary at some points. Because you did go through some times where you had to face some stuff, right? And
absolutely.
And it's at that point when most people will run the other way because it's too uncomfortable. But I think that's the point of the program, really, to ensure you walk the bridge of fear, to get to the other side, because it is a much livelier, happier, fuller place to be on the other side, right?
Definitely.
And you can flourish into your best body without as much sabotage, and diagnose those sabotages so you can do something about them straight away rather than them getting out of control. So thank you for sharing those. And do you feel like you're free of thoughts, or do you have that were kind of plaguing you previously into a negative place? Because we're not always free of these, but how do you feel you're navigating this territory now?
I think I don't think I'd be foolish to say I'm free of everything, really. I think because in life there's things that come up, in a couple of months, even still since we had, since we started, there's a few things that have come up that I've kind of thought, oh, I didn't realise I did that, or I didn't realise why, and I've, I'm really looking at that. So, so for instance, I'm looking at sort of my my family life and just some of those things that I didn't realise, I suppose, why certain things are the way they are. So I don't think we're ever going to be free of them, but I think I dealt with a lot of things at the beginning, and I think that's the part that's the bit of the facing the truth and holding the mirror up to your face, really, because you're to understand and to realise that actually you need to delve into some of these things, because they're the things that were shaping you and your ideas and your reasonings, or whatever they may have been. So I think I feel very positive about my life and where I want it to go. I think there's always going to be negativities, things that will come in, but those are challenges, and the tools though that you provided, and armed me with almost to help me kind of face those challenges, and that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah,
To
absolutely,
kind
because
of,
life happens.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's
and
all sorts, yeah, absolutely. And
do you feel you have a higher self-worth?
yes, God, yes, yeah, and I did, I just feel like I didn't at the beginning. I didn't think I was worthy, at all. And actually, I seriously think I am worthy. Absolutely, I am. I don't think I am worthy of, having a better life, a better version of me, just all of it.
And do you think your marriage is in a much better, stronger place?
Yeah, definitely for it. Absolutely, definitely. Yeah, and yeah, just communicating again, being in a position where we don't have to go in the camper van to have our time together. We can actually, talk here now and actually make plans and things. And I think it's yeah,
Yeah,
I'm very grateful, and I'm very, yeah, that I made the decision.
that's great. And you shared before in our pre-chat that loads of other things are coming to fruition that we talked about that are not even related to your body, but moving house and getting things together and feeling like you wanted more than what you, because you felt the space you're in, even though you've just moved into it, was a little restrictive, and you felt a little bit like, but I feel bad to want to move house, and now it's
Yeah,
seeming to, yeah,
yeah,
what,
I think we're both. It was, and I thought we were both on separate pages, and I think we just not communicated, and literally we are now. We're on the same page. We know where we're going. Our house has been done. We're going to move. It's just all happening and all going in the right direction, and we're doing it together. And that's what we needed. Yeah, it's all
yeah,
happening.
it's really good, really good. Thank you so much for sharing, Raina, and
Welcome.
you've touched on so many pertinent points, personal points, and so I'm really thankful for you being brave enough to share personal details, personal information about your journey. And I know this will really help others decide whether this is a program for them and whether they would get kind of transformation that you have, because it is life transforming and it does bring huge body change as well as a holistic life transformation also.
Yeah,
So thanks again, Raina, and
welcome. Thank you.
I'll speak to you soon. So
Take care. Thank you.
take care.
Bye.
Bye.